Hey, hey, and welcome back to J.P.'s World of Wrestling. I am your man, J.P., and I hope that you have enjoyed the Globe series that I posted. And even as we speak, as I'm recording this, the Ric Flair video is uploading. But today, I wanted just to give you a little bonus content. It's story time today. Yay, story time. So, today I'm going to tell you about the day or the night that I worked backstage at WWE Monday Night Raw. So it was 2014, and I was working a security job. Now this security company, they handle all the events held at the Moda Center and the Rose Quarter in Portland, Oregon. Now, for those of you who don't know, the Moda Center is the big sports venue in the Portland area. It's where they have all the Portland Trailblazer basketball games. It's where they have a lot of concerts and ice capades and and all that. Sometimes they have minor league hockey there. But yeah, so a lot of times, I would work pretty, like I said on another video, some pretty high profile positions there. Well, on this particular day, I was assigned to work Monday Night Raw. So I get there, and which was really cool because I knew that Hulk Hogan was going to be there. Now, I never expected to see Hulk. I just didn't. I expected to be some little hallway or whatever, checking credentials or something. But I never expected to see Hulk. So I get there wearing my Hulkamania t-shirt. I sign in, I put on my uniform shirt, and then they take me outside the loading dock, down the ramp, and sort of outside the ramp, and they put me next to the satellite truck outside. And they told me, okay, your function here is to not only make sure nobody messes with the satellite truck, but also when WWE employees come in, direct them over to the garage over there, away from the loading dock. Because we got some paperwork from them stating where they wanted their people to park. So that was my position for that moment. So I stood there, and as WWE, well, I didn't really deal with a lot of WWE people, but a taxi cab pulled in, like sort of away from where I was down the ramp, but I could see where it was, and I could see who was coming out of it, and it was actually JBL, John Bradshaw Layfield, also known as Justin Hawk Bradshaw, Blackjack Bradshaw, whatever. But at that point, he was a commentator, and he was getting out of the cab, and along with Michael Cole was with him, and so they went inside, and then a little bit after that, a car pulls up next to me, rolls down their window, and it's Billy Kidman inside. Now, Billy Kidman is a former WCW Cruiserweight champion, former wrestler, former WWE wrestler, but at that time he was an agent for the WWE. So he rolls down the window, he's like, "Hi, I'm Billy Kidman with WWE." I said, "Okay, yeah, just head down there to that garage there, and you can find a place to park in there." And then he looks at the closer parking lot, he's like, "Why can't I just park in there?" I'm like, "Well, I've been told to tell people to go park in that one." So he drives away, and about, I don't know, maybe 10, 15, 20 minutes later, this grumpy old stupid guy comes out, and I think he works for WWE. He starts cussing me out. Starts yelling at me, raising his voice to me, cussing me out, saying, "What the heck are you doing having our people park over there in that park? They're supposed to be parking over here at the close one." And I said, "Look, I'm just doing what my supervisor told me to do. I'm directing people over there." He's like, "Well, who's your supervisor?" And so I told him. And so he storms off, cussing, just like, "Nah, blah, 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 this is bullcrap, blah, blah, blah." So, so short time after that, my supervisor comes out and told me that was the right call. And I even showed them the paperwork, and he still managed to cuss me out. she like really hated working with WWE because of that reason. But so then he's like, okay, I've got a new position for you. So we went inside and we started walking around backstage. And as we're walking around, I'm seeing all of these legendary guys that I grew up watching. Like over on a table against the wall was sitting IRS, Erwin R. Shyster, aka Mike Rotundo. He's just sitting there on the wall. I didn't talk to him, but I saw him. He was like 6 feet away from me. And all these legendary guys are walking that are all agents now. They're all just walking around, and I had a little interaction with Road Dogg, Jesse James, from D-Generation X and New Age Outlaws, and you know, with that, I couldn't help myself because I was kind of like Road Dogg. So I'm like, hey, Road Dogg, and he just kind of nodded and acknowledged me, like, hey, how you doing? And that was the extent of our interaction. I was trying really hard to maintain my professionalism as a security guard, as an event security staff. I was trying very hard to maintain my professionalism. It was hard because I saw all these legendary wrestlers walking around, including guys like Pat Patterson was back there, Blackjack Lanza, I believe, or something. I don't know. It was one of these old guys from like really early 80s were back there. And so then I moved into this area right in front of the loading dock door, right next to this one of those big trunks on wheels. And but as I'm being moved to this position, I'm seeing things on all sides of me. And like over here, there's this trunk that they've got open that looks like they've got T-shirts in there. And as I'm walking past, I'm seeing all these agents and all these crew members walking. So then I'm finally placed in this spot in front of the loading dock door next to this big equipment trunk. As I'm standing there, one of my co-workers, who's a big WWE fan, he's standing there kind of talking to me. I'm supposed to send him away because that whole area at this point is now locked down and nobody's allowed back there. Not even janitorial people. They're not even allowed back there. Even though they should be, because they're told by their whole job is to empty garbage cans and sweep up. But no, they're not even allowed back. Only WWE people with credentials around their neck are allowed back there. But I'm sitting there talking to this guy, and I told him because earlier, as I'm standing there, Jerry the King Lawler's walking past me, I nod at him, he kind of nods at me, and then John Cena walks past me, and he looks at me, he nods, and I nod, I acknowledge him, and but as I was walking, being placed in this position, I saw Vince McMahon and Triple H. They're both walking past me. Vince is, is kind of looking down, heading right to his office, and I'm just my mind is blown right now. I'm like, that's Vince McMahon, in person. He looks kind of skinny in person. He looks a lot, on TV, he looks all jacked up and but in person, he's actually kind of tall and kind of thin but, I'm just blown away by everything I'm seeing. And then I'm standing there in this position, and Rob Van Dam comes up to me, RVD comes up to me. He's like, hey, I'm looking for the merchandise trunk. They should have a trunk with shirts in it. I'm like, does it fold out like this? He's like, yeah. I'm like, yeah, it's down that way. I saw it. He's like, okay, yeah, thanks. Whoa, Rob Van Dam, ECW legend. And then I turn around and face the loading dock door. Well, actually, before that, I gotta back up. Before that, I'm standing there, and this guy that's going to be involved in kind of a skit that night, he's standing next to me. We're talking because he doesn't know a lot about wrestling. And a guy that was on the roster at that time named Dolph Ziggler, who was actually very, very good for a modern wrestler. He was actually very cool. He was standing there. We were just kind of shooting the breeze with him, just talking. And he's really super nice, really just my goodness, I'm talking Dolph Ziggler, and just a lot of like the modern guys were walking past me. Like the Usos were walking past me. I saw, Roman Reigns walk past me. Roman Reigns is like the champion right now, and all these guys. And so then finally I'm told to turn around, face the loading dock door. So as I'm turning around there, Big Show, like Big Show comes at me, but he like comes over here and he's like leaning on this trunk that I'm standing next to, but he's like literally like a foot away from me. He's like looking on his phone, and this referee comes up to starts talking to him, and he starts yelling at the referee, like starts cussing the referee out, and I'm like, oh boy, I'm not gonna try to talk to Big Show. He looks pretty mad. I don't want to make him mad. So then eventually he walks away, and then Randy Orton comes in, like the son of Cowboy Bob Orton, and at the time current WWE superstar, comes in and he asks me, hey, yeah, I'm looking for like which way is like the male like dressing room at. And so I pointed down the hallway where I saw a lot of the male wrestlers going. I'm like, well, a lot of the male wrestlers are going down that way. He's like, okay, and where's catering at? So then I pointed behind this big black curtain. He peeks behind there. And he's like, okay, yeah, thanks. So then he walks away, and then Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff comes in. I interact with him. He asked me where the men's actually I felt kind of bad for him because at this time he's kind of old. He's got this big handlebar mustache. He's like, yeah, I'm looking for the hotel rooms. And I'm like, I don't know. And then I'm like, well, I know where the dressing room. He's like, oh, that's what I mean. That's what I mean. He's like, okay. It's like, okay. Well, I see a lot of the guys going down that area. I think that's where the men's dressing rooms are at. And he's like, well, yeah, that's what I need. I'm like, okay, well, yeah, it's just down that hallway there. He's like, okay, thank you so much. So then, after that, Roddy Piper comes in. And he just looks flustered. He comes up to you like, man, I need your help, man. I'm so lost here. I'm like, well, what can I do for you, Mr. Piper? He's like, yeah, I don't know where to go. And I'm like, well, Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff was just here, and I sent him down that hallway. That's where the men are getting dressed. He's like, okay, yeah, that'll do. Fine, yeah, thanks. So he goes down that way, and then, so then after that, Scott Hall comes in. Razor Ramon, he comes in. I don't say anything to him because I'm like, He comes up, he walks past me, goes behind me, goes down this other hallway. So, and after that, I see like Pat Patterson hanging out there. All the guys are kind of talking to him as they're coming in. So then I turn around again to face, the awning that leads out to the arena. I turn around to face that. And so then, I see like Mean Gene Okerlund, like walks past me. He faces me and he's like, "Excuse me, are there dressing rooms down this way?" And he's pointing down like towards Vince's office. And I'm like, yeah, I believe they will have a place for you to change down there, Mr. Okerlund. And he's like, okay, thank you. He's just super nice guy, And as he's walking, everybody's like, hey, Mean Gene. All the wrestlers like, hey, Mean Gene, like shaking his hand, giving him hugs and stuff. Really happy to see him. I was happy to see him. I'm like, this is the voice of WWF in the 80s. This was my childhood right here. And so then, I see Kevin Nash, big Kevin Nash walk past me. I don't say anything to him. And I forgot to mention earlier on that I had an interaction with Brock Lesnar. Now, Brock Lesnar has a reputation for being kind of a jerk. I didn't see it. I saw him just as a guy that keeps to himself, but the guy that was standing next to me earlier on tonight that was going to be part of his skit, that was asking me questions, he saw Brock Lesnar and he's like, oh, isn't that Brock Lesnar? Because he knew him mostly from the UFC. And said, yeah, he's a WWE guy. He's like, oh. So he starts like talking to Brock Lesnar. And then Brock Lesnar like looks at me and points at the guy like, what's up with that guy? And I'm like, I don't know him. I just met him. He's like, so then Brock Lesnar just kind of sits down in these chairs and he's just kind of chilling, relaxing like this, with a dip in his lip, just kind of chilling out back there. I didn't see him being a jerk. Anyway, back to where I was. So then, was the highlight of the night. I'm looking down the hallway towards Vince McMahon's office, and coming towards me is Hulk Hogan. That's right, Hulk Hogan is coming towards me. The childhood wrestling fan in me could not contain my professionalism. When am I ever going to get a chance to do this ever again? So as Hulk Hogan is walking past me, he's like acknowledging some of the crew in the very back. It's like, hey guys, I acknowledge you. Yeah, good to see you guys. But as he's walking past me, I took my chance. I said, like, hey Hulkster, how you doing? So he kind of looks over to his side and shakes my hand. How you doing, brother? Shakes my hand. He shakes my hand. And then he walks on down towards the locker rooms. And at that point, I'm like, looking at my hand like, I just shook Hulk Hogan's hand. I just shook my childhood hero's hand. So inside, I'm like, ah! Oh my goodness. So then, a little bit later on, they start filming stuff. They start filming like backstage scenes, so everybody's supposed to be quiet. At that point, the place is completely locked down. And so I'm like doing my best to tell people, like even like janitor people, these little short like Hispanic ladies. I'm like, I'm sorry, you can't be back here. No, I have to empty trash. I'm like, I'm sorry. You have to go back upstairs. I'm sorry. And, okay, yeah, okay, but they didn't listen. They just did it anyway. Whatever. So then, so then they start filming a couple of the lady wrestlers walking down the hallway, and Jimmy Hart is like standing next to me, and he like taps me on the shoulder. I'm like, hey, Jimmy Hart. He's like, y'all just stand here. I don't want to interrupt their filming that over there. I'm like, yeah, but you're Jimmy Hart. He's like, yeah, that doesn't matter. So they get done filming that. They film a couple things with Randy Orton, and off to the side, on this interview wall area, they're interviewing a lot of the wrestlers about like their memories of Hulkamania, because it's Hulk Hogan's birthday. And so, as the night progressed, more and more guys are walking past, but then they finally put me like outside, just outside the loading dock door. So I'm standing there, and then I see Ric Flair move past me. And so I opened the door for Rick, thinking he's going to go, hey, thanks. But no, he didn't acknowledge me. He just runs right in. Whatever, I don't care. I don't care if Ric Flair acknowledges me. That's fine. So I'm out there for basically the duration of my shift. But after the event was actually, I have to back up. Right before they put me out there was a segment in the night where one of the women wrestlers got arrested by Stephanie McMahon. So she gets taken away in handcuffs, and she gets dragged through the backstage area, and they take her kind of away, and they show her on camera, and you can actually see me kind of turning around and watching as she's taken away in handcuffs. But as soon as the camera stops rolling, they take her out of the handcuffs and whatever. But then that's when they kind of put me outside, and which is fine. I saw Ric Flair come in, but as the night progressed, I see all these wrestlers leaving, and they're all like kind of going to their cars or whatever. But then I saw like Hulk leave. He walked out the door. He walked right past me, and I tried to say, hey, good night, Hulk. But I guess I didn't say it loud enough, because he didn't really acknowledge me. He just kept walking. I think he was kind of upset over something Brock Lesnar said to him that night. I think Brock Lesnar called him old man or something. I don't know. But he looked pretty irritated, so he just kept walking. But anyway, as the night progressed, I saw all these guys, all these wrestlers leave. They eventually opened up the actual bay door, the loading dock. And then my whole job at that point was to make sure fans, like random fans, are not just running up the loading dock and walking into the arena. So a couple hours passed by, and finally the arena is almost completely emptied out. and I'm told to go back upstairs. So I go past, and I look into the arena, and they've got the ring almost completely broke down at that point. So then I go upstairs, I take the elevator, I go and I sign out. But one of my supervisors, he's like, "Hey, did you see Hulk Hogan?" I said, "I did," and I did, and I confessed to him. I'm like, "I'm sorry, man. I couldn't. I had to say hi to him." He's like, "Well, that's okay. I mean, I understand." So then, I got in my car and I went home. But that was the story of the night I met Hulk Hogan. But hold on. Zevia Soda. Not an official sponsor of the channel, but still pretty good. Anyway, sorry. But then, I don't know, a few months later, I got to work SmackDown. And, well, you know what? I'll save that for another time. I'll combine the SmackDown story with the NXT story and the house show story. But, because all three of them are a story in and of themselves. So, and plus this video is running over 20 minutes long. And anyway, that is my Monday Night Raw working backstage story. It was an epic night. It'll be a night I'll never forget. And I even came home with a balloon that was used on TV for Hulk Hogan's birthday. And I kept it for a long time. Anyway, that is my Monday Night Raw story. And that's going to conclude this video. So if you're new here, go ahead and like and subscribe to the channel and share the video if you want. And I will see you next time.